We are going to turn now to our other live trial that's taking place out of Florida. This is called the Dosed and Choked Murder Trial. The 57-year-old contractor is accused of killing his husband, Tim Smith, and then staging his murder as a sexual encounter gone awry. Prosecutors say that Swilley moved Smith's body to an apartment that they used for sex encounters with other men and then poured bleach around the body. Let's get you back into the courtroom now. The medical examiner has taken the stand.
Lying on the floor with bleach in that area, and the bleach just basically over time drying out the skin in that area.
Okay. So this isn't actually a blunt force trauma injury. This is from the bleach, his arm lying in the bleach.
That's my opinion, yes, that he just laid there long enough that the bleach dried out the skin, and you can kind of visualize it yourself if somebody's lying on the floor, how the arm in that area would be in contact with the floor.
And then photograph number 15 kind of orient us to what we're looking at here.
This is Mr. Smith's buttock area, and again, it shows a pattern that I think was also due to just laying in contact with bleach on the floor.
And that would, this right here is not an injury, that's from lying in the bleach.
That's my opinion, yes, ma'am.
And then photograph number 16.
Photograph number 16 shows Mr. Smith's buttocks and thighs, and again, over the back of the left thigh, you can see that same type of pattern.
And then photograph 17.
Photograph 17 shows you Mr. Smith's back. The red and purple color is mainly due to blood pooling as he laid on his back after death. After you die, while you're alive, your blood is circulating through your body because your heart is pumping it. But after you die and your heart stops, the blood just starts to settle based on gravity. So the pink and purple areas are mainly just due to blood settling. But in addition to that, he has some more prominent areas, probably where the blood pooled long enough that the capillaries started to pop.
Is that what we're looking at right here in this area?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, after the external examination, did you perform an internal examination?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And you described earlier how you did that. You take the organs out and look at all of the organs. I'm going to show you photograph number 18. Is this part of your internal examination?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can you tell us what we're looking at here?
This is a close-up of...
Excuse me, can I give you the pointer so you can...
Yes, ma'am.
Just right here, so you can tell us and point to what we're looking at.
Okay. It's been, all the surrounding tissues have been basically covered. What you're looking at is the front of Mr. Smith's cervical spine, the spine in his neck. We have already removed the larynx and the esophagus. We've removed the windpipe and the thyroid gland and the food tube that takes food from your mouth to your stomach. All that's been removed. That's all in the front, and we've removed all that, and you're looking directly down on the bones of the neck. And what you can see here, it's a little bit difficult to tell what you're looking at if you don't look at it every day, but basically, the reason it is so dark here, for one thing, is because there's hemorrhage or bleeding. And then if you look carefully in the middle right there, what that is, that's called a fracture disarticulation. Basically, what that means is that you have in your neck, we all have 7 cervical vertebrae. We have 7 vertebrae stacked one on top of the other in our neck. And what has happened in this case is that between the 4th and the 5th of those 7 vertebrae, there's been a force applied to the neck such that it popped open the space between that 4th vertebrae and that 5th one. So the neck's been, even though the bones themselves are intact, the neck has been broken because it's been popped open between those 2 vertebrae.
Is this a hyperextension type of injury?
Yes, ma'am.
And what does that mean?
So basically with neck injuries, you can talk about a hyperflexion injury where the neck is bent forward and then that would pop open the back. or a hyperextension injury where the head is tilted back and that would pop open the front of the neck. So this would be consistent with a hyperextension type injury.
So the neck being back this way to break it that way?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And can you say anything about what position either the person that caused the injury or Tim was in when this happened?
No, ma'am.
Now, what can you say about the timing of the blunt force injuries we saw to the face and the broken neck? Which one happened first? Can you say anything about that?
They both appeared to be at or about the same time.
Now, you noted in your report, and you talked about this a little bit earlier, there was early decompositional changes?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Is the amount of decomposition consistent with Tim being killed the late evening of March 23rd of 2023 or early morning hours of March 24th, 2023?
May I answer and explain?
Okay. Yes.
It's consistent with that time period, but it could also be consistent with before that or after that. Time of death is not a precise determination.
All right. Because we see sometimes on TV, they look at a body and go, it was March 23rd at 8:05. That's when the person died. Is that realistic in what you do to be able to tell somebody's time of death from that?
Absolutely not.
What is the best way for you and your job to determine a person's time of death?
The only reliable way to determine time of death is to determine what time the person was last reliably known alive, when did they talk to their mom on the phone, and when were they found reliably dead, when did the neighbor find them. And time of death happened in between those two. That's the only absolutely reliable way.
So the last time this person was seen alive was 9:30 in the evening, March 23rd of 2023, and then found on March 25th of 2023, we would put the time of death sometime between those two times.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, between March 23rd and March 25th.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Did you find any defensive wounds on Tim Smith's body?
Defensive wounds is a kind of hard term for me to define. He had superficial abrasions, but no, not really, I guess.
But you don't know what the abrasions could have been from him falling?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Would the amount of diphenhydramine affect his ability to fight back?
I would think so, yes, ma'am. It's going to make him very sleepy, as we already talked about.
All right. Now, were you able to determine a cause of death for Tim Smith?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was Tim Smith's cause of death?
In my opinion, Mr. Smith died from trauma to the neck, associated both with the ligature asphyxia and the broken neck.
All right. What is the ligature asphyxia? What does that mean?
Asphyxia basically means lack of oxygen. And we've already talked about those little petechiae to his face. And so I think it's a combination of both lack of oxygen due to a ligature being around his neck and the fact that his neck was eventually, during that same time period, broken.
All right. Were you able to determine a manner of death?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was that?
In my opinion, the manner of death is homicide.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Examination.
Yes, sir.
Morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
Let's go ahead and bring in our guest to discuss this case that we're watching. Switching gears here and talking about this case, Jamie. All right, this one also out of Florida. Jamie White's still with us. This one's really kind of, this crazy situation here. The state is saying that the defendant, who we've been looking at there in those pictures, staged this elaborate crime scene. And, you have some of these facts that have been brought into evidence. They had a lifestyle in which they had this apartment. They would go to the apartment and have sexual encounters with other people. We've heard witnesses testify that they also would maybe take part in some of the activities or go to that apartment. So defense's theory is that this was somebody else that did this. They were involved in this lifestyle, and who knows who could have done it, but it wasn't the defendant. What are you taking away from this case so far?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, of course, there's a sensational flavor to it based on their behavior. And the defense is relying on that. And, that can be powerful to juries, especially maybe a conservative jury that would find that they put themselves in dangerous situations. Honestly, I think a better approach for the defense, and they may pivot, would be to really argue that this was accidental in some way. It may be difficult, but given the lifestyle, sex with multiple people and off of Grindr is what I understand. And I think, you could make a plausible argument that the sex they were having potentially led to him having a broken neck without going into the details of what that would look like. But at this point in time, they are using the plan B option, and that is to point the finger at somebody else. We'll see. The evidence is pretty overwhelming, the geo-tracking, and some of the physical evidence that was found in their apartment where they actually lived. So it's an uphill battle for the defense.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And then the state is given this theory that this was all about money and control, talking about there was a life insurance policy, there was a retirement policy, that the victim in this case was going to leave, go take a different job, and then the defendant wasn't going to be able to afford his current lifestyle. So it's always helpful when the state can put forth some sort of storyline here.
Yeah, and in this case, they used his daughter to support some of that evidence, and that is really powerful when you have a family member who presumably is close with her father, but took the stand, and we believe people tell the truth, generally speaking, but did talk to what you've commented on, and that is that he was really all about the money, and that in particular that he would not have been able to afford his home but for the life insurance money. Again, piles on to the evidence that I've already discussed.
Yeah, we'll have to see what comes next. All right, Jamie, thank you.